everybody, we're live. It's a Thursday night. It's a beautiful day today. Lots of rain and heat and humidity. And we all took like 7 showers today because I'm in Washington, D.C., so it's kind of hot and crazy. But we're here and getting ready for the weekend. So we're live on Periscope, Twitch, YouTube. I'm gonna wait for some of you guys to log on. In the meantime, I'm gonna share a YouTube link, and for people who want to watch this on YouTube, our channel's growing. We're not far. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wrong account. Alright, so we're growing. We're not far from becoming like an official channel, like a real monetized channel. Not far from that. It's crazy because we haven't even been doing this for so long. It's been maybe since April. Hey! Hello, hey Diacritical One. Okay, let's share the YouTube stuff. Why isn't it letting me? Hey everybody, hope you're enjoying. Oh god, I can't log into my YouTube account. This is annoying. Alright. What up? For those of you asking, this is totally a bomb shelter. If you want to come and bomb me in any way, you can't. If you want to come and bomb me, exactly. That was me repeating that. Okay, so tonight's topic is not political. Tonight's topic is about Airbnb, since I have tried making money off Airbnb when I was in debt. It was like the worst idea ever. We're live. Okay, so about almost 2 years ago, I tried to make, I left my job because I left so many of my jobs. So about 2 years ago, I left my job thinking, I was working at a job. I really didn't like it. It wasn't, I wasn't getting a lot of flexibility. I didn't like, there were a lot of things I didn't like. And someone is saying, nasty Arab, go back to your country. Okay. I just had to read that because it was funny. But, so, I was at a job I didn't like, and I was staying over, like, a group of friends, because I was bored, so I was doing that for a few nights a week. And eventually I was just because they were in Virginia, my office is in Virginia, so I basically was just staying with them all the time. And it started to become a habit of when I would go and stay at my friend's place, I would just go and, we'd go drinking, and I would just stay there and not go home. I started doing this thing where I would clean up my place before I left, and then I would just list my apartment on Airbnb. And I would make a shit ton of money off of it. When I say a shit ton, I mean between minimum how much was I charging? Not less than $100, and for between $100 and $200 a night. And that was like my tiny little studio in DC where I used to live. Thank you, Diacritical. All right, so it was pretty good. I was making like $6,000 a month, which was more than I was making at my job, and I was able to be flexible. I wasn't really doing work. The only work I was doing was cleaning up my apartment, putting everything away, and then just listing it. And people would stay. I would do this thing where I would leave my keys on my table. I would leave the door unlocked. I would tell them to just, let the front desk person let them in, go upstairs, go inside, get the keys, do your thing, whatever. And then when you're done, just leave the keys back on the table and leave the door unlocked. And then I would come back and get it and whatever. So this is happening for a while. And then I was like, I'm making good money off of this. Why don't I just quit my job and just keep doing this full time? Just keep taking over people's leases. I didn't put any money going into it other than what I was already paying for my own rent. And then, so I was like, what if I just do this? I'm going to use whatever money I made from my own place. I'm going to put it into renting more places, taking over people's leases, and then just do like a chain, just doing more, and then just, furnishing those places. And so I started doing that, and, I'd take over a lease, I would go on Amazon, just furnish the entire place for less than $1,000 with good furniture, like great furniture. And it looked nice, good quality, everything, and it was all delivered with Amazon. I had like an Amazon Prime account. Everything was just delivered straight to my door, and all the places that I rented were like near each other, and it was really good. And then it was a little tougher though, because I was also, it wasn't like my own place. It was, now I was having to clean and prepare and furnish like a totally different apartment that I didn't live in, so I'd have to go there each time. But yeah, someone doesn't believe me that I spent less than $1,000 on furniture. I did. I really spent less than, these are studios. It's not so expensive to furnish a studio anyway. It's small. It's a small space. But yeah, I spent less than $1,000. Why is that so hard to believe? Go online, go on Amazon, literally just choose like the cheapest furniture ever. It was very simplistic. I wasn't making a whole fancy thing. It looked nice and clean, but I wasn't putting a lot of money into it. So it was going fine, except I didn't know what I was doing in terms of the law. I wasn't thinking about taxes. You have to pay, in DC you have to pay like almost 15% of what you make from Airbnb if it's not your house, and if it's more than if they're staying there if it's being rented out more than a certain amount. Someone is saying except if you get bed bugs. So I'll get to the bed bugs point. The problems that I ran into, like taxes, expenses. There is a thing that I didn't realize. I didn't realize that in DC, I wasn't watching the market, the renting market, because in DC, and it flows in different places, different times of the year, but in DC, I started doing this around around September. It was before the whole Thanksgiving season and everything, before all that, and so I was making good money because there were a lot of tourists coming to DC. And then it was suddenly Christmas time, it was suddenly winter, and nobody was renting in DC. Everybody was home with their families, because nobody actually lives in DC. Nobody's families actually lives in DC. These weren't things that I had taken into consideration before, and I lost a lot of money. I was paying rent for these places, and I wasn't even making it up in Airbnb money, because like I was like before I was making $200 a night renting, you know, per studio, renting it out during the good times, the good season, but then suddenly during the bad season, I wasn't even filling my rent. So what I'm talking about is subleases. Okay, so I keep responding to the comments and it's making people confused. So I'm gonna break it down in a simpler fashion, and I will not look at the comments. So what I did was, I'll start from the beginning. I was staying with my friends a bunch. I had a normal job, like a 9 to 5. I was staying with my friends a bunch, and I started doing this thing where I rented out my studio on Airbnb. And I was making good money from it, and I decided, hey, why don't I, I'm making more money than I'm making at my job. Why don't I quit my job and just keep taking over people's apartment leases, like, for little studios. I didn't do bigger apartments. Why don't I keep taking over leases and then just furnishing them and then renting them out on Airbnb. And I know how to rent an apartment with very little. I know how to furnish an apartment with very little money. Amazon, there's a lot of good cheap furniture on Amazon. You don't have to pay a lot for. I furnish them for less than $1,000. And you don't have to believe me, but just go on Amazon, figure out the cost for a small studio. It doesn't cost a lot to furnish. And they would send you all the furniture straight to your door. So it was perfect. And so I started doing that, quit my job, started doing that. Everything was great until it wasn't great. First of all, I hadn't saved up money for the taxes. It wasn't like, Airbnb doesn't take the money away. I mean, it depends on the state, but I wasn't thinking about the taxes. I wasn't thinking about the rules. If you are having people over, if you live there and people are just staying in your place, it's different than if you're renting out the entire place to people, because then that's like a business. Whereas if you're living in a house and you're renting out a room, it's not a business. You're just having guests over and they're paying. So there's all these little rules that I hadn't taken into consideration. Also, I didn't take into consideration that the seasons for the housing market, or like the seasons for buying or renting homes or apartments in DC is very different than the rest of the country, because DC is like a work-based city. Most people who are in the downtown area, which is where I was doing this, most people in the downtown area are not living there. They're just there for work, and they go back home when it's like the holiday season. They go back home when it's December, and they spend the whole December and January with their families because it's Christmas and New Year's and everything. I started doing this in around September when everything was still vibrant. Everyone was still in DC. Congress is in session. There's all these different parties because there's Halloween and Thanksgiving and all this stuff, and there were a lot of tourists. So I was charging like $200 a night for one tiny studio in the heart of DC, and it was doing great. But then it was suddenly the holiday season. People went home with their families and we weren't getting tourists, and suddenly not only wasn't I making $200 a night, I was losing. I wasn't even making enough to fill the rent, which is crazy. So I was losing money, and I didn't have money saved, or I didn't have a lot of money to begin with because I was stupid and just taking a bunch of dumb risks. So then I went into debt. But I learned a lot, and then on top of that, the one apartment that was still doing kind of well, which was the one that I was living in, The property manager found out because the guy who was the property manager found out. That was a whole different thing, and he threatened me with a lawsuit. And so then I lost that one. So I was paying like rent for like 3 different places at that point without making any money. So I was losing a ton of money. And so the way that I lost my place, by the way, was that I was renting out my place on Airbnb. It was doing great. And I had this system where, I leave the keys on the table, you come in, do whatever you want, then you leave it on the table and you leave. This one stupid guy, okay, he uses the key, and my rule is, no matter what, you leave the key on the table. Don't take it anywhere else. You leave the key on the table, and you leave the door unlocked, and you leave. So this stupid guy, okay, he uses the key and everything, and they're leaving. They're checked out, and then he forgets to put the key back in the room. So instead, he goes to the front desk where the property manager is standing, and he goes, "Here are the keys for that apartment for Pardes. I'm from Airbnb, and I'm just dropping off her keys." And I was like, holy shit. The property manager was furious. Everyone was furious, and it was really bad. So the one thing that I learned a bunch of things from this whole process. If I wanted to do this again, I would be more wary of the problems I could run into. I would save up more in advance, just in case, as like a cushion, so I don't have to shut everything down in case, just because a little thing went wrong. I would be more wary of the laws. I would be more wary of what kind of places I'm renting out. Some property managers, the thing with subleasing is that almost always the property managers are going to be against it, but there are some places where you can like get around it and they won't even notice. Like one of the places that I was renting out, they had no idea, and I think even if they knew, they wouldn't care, because it was part of such a large building, and like they were all owned by the same people, but there wasn't a lot of oversight, so they kind of didn't. The property managers there didn't care. They kind of just let you do whatever you wanted. So just making sure that you know the place that you're renting out, kind of like how it is. Are they going to react badly? Are you going to get in trouble? Usually you don't. It's normally easy to do it without getting in trouble with the building. If you know what you're doing and you have a system. So it's easier if you have a system. If you have like an apartment door that goes outside and they can get in without a front desk person, that's ideal, because then you don't have to, the front desk person doesn't have to see your guest every time they come in and then find out that you're renting your place out on Airbnb. There are a lot of ways to do it without getting caught, and so many people do it. A lot of people do it. I'm not doing it, but a lot of people do it. And they make good money. People are making 6-figure salaries literally just from renting and subleasing different places on Airbnb. And it's not expensive. Because you're furnishing the place, and you don't have to pay a lot for furnishing. And so just be careful about the rules of the place. Watch the market, also, in DC, what I told you about the renting season, you make good money renting out in like September, October, November kind of, but then like December, January, February, you really don't make any money. And it's like that with housing too. It's really hard to sell during that season. Nobody's buying because everyone's back at home with their families. Nobody's in Washington, D.C. during that time of the year. Other places are going to be different, though. In some other places, the holiday season is going to be more expensive you're going to make more money the holiday season. So it really depends on the place, like where you are. Watch out for the rules. In some places, Airbnb is banned. I think like New York City, they banned Airbnb. It's all for the hotels. It's all like these hotel lobbyists or whatever. It's all to help the big people, the big guys. So they want to squash the little guys, the Airbnb people. So be careful with those places. New York City, San Francisco, a lot of these. Washington D.C. is actually pretty good about it. Even though Washington D.C. is so blue, it's such a blue district, and it's so corporate. But D.C. is actually pretty good about it, compared with these other places like New York and Santa Monica and San Francisco. So be careful about the rules, be careful about the laws, the taxes, all that stuff. Also, another thing I would say, someone mentioned something about bed bugs. What if you have a guest that messes things up or ruin things? So the great thing about Airbnb, there's a system, there's a payment system, so the person has to pay you through the system. No one's going to stay in your place without paying up front. And so you've got that working for you. Also, if anyone ruins anything or breaks anything, Airbnb will pay the full cost. And they actually don't give you a hard time about it. They will pay up to $1 million in costs for your place. So you're actually really fine. Unless you live in a mansion and you're just leaving all your expensive things out for people to take, which they won't, but even if they did, if you're living in a mansion, you're gonna be charging a lot anyway. So no one's gonna pay that much money to come there and steal your shit. But even if they did, Airbnb will pay up to $1 million in damages or lost things. So that's really great. You'll be fine. And then someone was asking about bed bugs. What if your guests bring bed bugs? I actually have a friend who did the same thing I did. He actually bought a place for with $5,000 down payment. He bought a place. It had 4 bedrooms in it, and he rented out 2 or 3 of the bedrooms on Airbnb until he got another roommate and stuff. And then one of them actually got bed bugs, and then it ended up his whole house got bed bugs, and it was a disaster. And the place he worked at actually paid the cost of an exterminator to get the bed bugs removed, and to they put a tent on the house and everything. His employer paid for it just in order to avoid their employee coming to work with bed bugs and spreading it to anybody else. That's how terrified everybody is of bed bugs. So this guy was he was scarred from this whole bed bug situation. He still has PTSD. I asked him how much he was charging per room, and it was very low. It was $20 or $30 a night, which is very low, especially in Washington D.C. I was charging $200 a night for a tiny studio in D.C. So $20-$30 a night, that's very low. And the difference between my guests and his guests were that my guests were paying a lot of money. They were usually paying on their business cards, so usually the people that I was having in my places were people there on business, and usually men, which, no offense, but older single men are the best customers that anyone can possibly have. When I was working at a restaurant, it was like that. They always tipped the best. Renting out places, having an older single guy, or at least an older guy who's there by himself, the best experience ever. They leave the place perfectly. They pay everything up front. They don't use your shit, and they don't steal your shit, and they usually don't have bed bugs because they're paying $200 a night, so they have enough money to take care of themselves. So bottom line, if you want to avoid the bedbug people and the people who spill their shit everywhere and steal your stuff, charge a lot of money, and don't worry about your place not being booked every night, because the damages that are going to come from having the damages that will come from having a cheap guest, I'm sorry to say this, cheap guest come in your place, the damages and losses that you're going to have from that are going to cost you more than if you didn't rent out your place every single night of the month. Plus, it's less work. Why would you want to go and clean up your place every single night of the month for less money? You get, less effort, more money, better guests, fewer damages, and losses. So it's a win-win. All the problems that I ever had from guests were from guests who paid less money, because I was desperate for guests, so I lowered the price, which I shouldn't have. I should have kept the price higher, because there were those one or two people who would come and still pay a lot of money because they were expensing their trip, and I would have been able to cover the cost. But because I was afraid, fear kicked in, and I was like, no, I won't be able to rent out the place every night of this month, so I'm going to charge less money per night and not put a minimum on how many nights they have to rent out, so I have to do it every single night and I have to clean it. But it's okay, I'll do it just so my place can be rented out every night. That was a really dumb idea, because I had all the problems that I had with these apartments were from guests who were paying less money, because they were cheap, what I call cheap guests. I don't want cheap guests in my place, but when I decided to charge less per night, I got those guests. The guy who was too lazy to put the keys on the table and got me in trouble with my building, and so I had to shut down the whole Airbnb in that apartment. That guy was a cheap renter. He was paying half the price that I would normally charge, because I was like, oh well, I wanted to rent out as many nights as possible, so I lowered the price. He was paying half. Okay, there were these hippie people who came and did drugs in one of the places I was renting out. They came in, they did drugs, okay? They left their shit everywhere. They smelled, they left everything dirty. And then they put a bad review because I didn't have a pan. And they wanted to cook something in a pan, even though they were just staying there for 2 nights. They wanted to cook in a pan, and they didn't. They were horrified that I didn't have a pan in order to cook, and they're like, well, how are we gonna cook this, whatever we wanted? And then they left a bunch of gross things in the fridge. I don't know. So those people were also paying little. And then there was this family that they said that it's only 1 or 2 people who are guests, and then it was an entire family. They're foreign, tourists. Those are the worst. I'm sorry. Tourists from other countries are the worst. So there was an entire family who came and stayed in this place where I was already renting out for much cheaper than I normally did. And they came and stayed there, and they stole things. They stole shit. I had these little props and these notebooks and pens and everything. They took everything. I was like, come on. So if you're going to rent out your place on Airbnb, charge more per night. Don't worry about it not being rented out every night of the week, because there are people who will pay the full price. They will pay the higher price, and those are the people you want. You want the business people. They're the ones who are going to give you the good reviews. They're the ones that are going to leave your place clean. They're the ones that really will follow all of your directions, can read English, and will give you a great time, and you'll make the most money off of them. So, all right, I'm going to look at your comments now. Okay, your comments are really funny. Pardes says, you get paid through Airbnb? Yes. Everything paid through Airbnb. They have to pay up front. You don't have to worry about payments. Diacritical says, can you rate the renters? Yes, you can rate the renters. Someone is asking if I have multiple properties. No, I don't have any properties. In fact, this is totally with no money. I did this with no money, no properties, which is much better if you own property, because then you don't have to deal with the crazy landlords or whatever. But I was renting. I was renting out, like I was subleasing without the permission of the property managers or apartment or landlords. So I was basically, I was breaking the rule. So how do you rent? So someone is asking, how do you rent? I'm assuming you're younger, and I'm assuming you're younger. So basically the way that you rent, you find a building you want to live in. Let's say, for me it was like an apartment building, or and you can either find listings online, you can find listings on Facebook. There are these like little Facebook groups of apartment and home listings. So you can go online, apartments.com or Zillow, or you can just call, you can just find a bunch of apartment buildings in an area, and you can just call all of them, which is actually what I did, because I got good deals not online. Like the online listings always had the bad deals, so I would just call them and talk to the whoever's dealing with the rentals. What is it called? Not the property managers, but anyway, so whoever was dealing with the rentals, I would talk to them and I would try to get like the good prices, and then they find a room for you. You have to put in an application for a lot of these buildings. You have to put in an application, let's say like $50 or $70. Total bullshit anyway, but you have to pay in order to apply to go and live in their building. And so once your application goes through, they look at your credit history, they do like a criminal background check or whatever, and then you get approved. Once you get approved, you have to pay a security deposit, and usually 1 month's rent up front. By the way, this is like the official apartment renting, but you don't have to do this. I mean, there's a lot of Lit says, it sounds like a lot of work. You don't have to do all this. This is just for like the more official places. Like this is for the places I used to live at, which were kind of more official, and they were more in the city. They were more in like close to downtown. So you have to, Felix says, do you have to have a guarantor? Yes. You have to have like someone else. If you are, they also check your income. So if you make less than a certain amount, they need like another person to be on your lease, just in case you don't pay your rent, so they come after the other person. So yeah, that's how you rent out a place. You find a building that you want to live in. This is like the formal way of renting out. You find a place you want to live in, you apply to live in that building. They do like a background check or whatever. You tell them your income. You tell them your income. You put in like someone else. I forgot what it's called, but someone else is going to sign off on your lease as well. I don't know. Someone's asking a question that I don't understand. So yeah, you put in, and then they tell you, and then once it gets approved, they tell you to pay them a security deposit. Plus, there was one of these places that had a move-in fee. It was like $250 move-in fee. They just collect a bunch of stupid fees. It's literally a fee for moving in. What does that even mean? So I basically yelled at them and got them to waive the move-in fee. So you should do that. You should yell at people and get them to waive fees, because a lot of these fees are total bullshit. So you pay a security deposit, and then usually they have you pay like the first month's rent up front, or maybe even like the first 2 months of rent or something. I don't know. Some of them have different rules. So that's it. And then if you don't want to go through all of that, and also they make you sign, a lot of them make you sign like a year contract. Don't do that. Don't sign a contract for a year. It's stupid. Unless you know for sure you're going to be there the entire year, and like you're not going to move out of that place, you're not going to find a better place, you're not, you're there for work or school or whatever, and it's going to be at least a year, then you can sign a contract. And a lot of these places, after you live there for a year, then you can just do like month to month. You can just rent month to month instead of like signing another year. A lot of these places let you do that. The best way to do it is go on Facebook and look through these like apartment listings that people just post online on Facebook, and they're always the best. They're like, hey, can you, I signed a lease for a year, but I won't, but I'm moving to I'm going to go and move to Portugal, and I need someone to take over my lease. Taking over people's leases is the best thing ever, because usually you pay a lot less. These people are desperate. They have to go to like some other place. So they're desperate. Oftentimes they leave their furniture, and you get to live in their place without signing any contract and without having to pay all those fees up front. And you get to just pay whatever like the base rent is. And oftentimes they'll even make you pay less because they're so desperate for someone to take over. So it's going on Facebook and finding a place to rent on Facebook, or like one of these like not formal, like informal listings. That's the best thing ever. CFL Mike says, Pardes instruct followers to yell at people. Story incoming. Yes, yell at people. So I was reading this book called what was it? I Will Teach You How to Be Rich. So it's all about yelling at people to lower your fees. I was telling my friend Daniel, Daniel Bostic. I was telling Daniel about how I got all my fees waived on my Bank of America account. I was like, I've been with you for 7 years, and or I don't remember how many years, but I've been with you for X amount of years, and you can't, and they're like, they charge everybody like a certain amount, but like they also charge you a fee if you go lower than a certain amount, or I don't know, they had a bunch of different fees that they also added on more recently. And I yelled at them, and they waived the fees, and they can waive the fees. Literally all these extra fees that they're charging you for no reason. Why do you have to pay the bank yearly for them to hold your money? Why do you have to pay people for them to hold your money? Why do you have to pay? And it's not that they're not even holding your money. They're using your money to invest and do other shit. Why do you have to pay people for giving them your money? That's the stupidest thing ever. And then on top of that, they're charging you all these bullshit fees. They're just milking you of your money. Anytime you go lower than a certain amount in your bank account, you have to pay them another fee. It's just crazy. So anytime you see that there are certain fees, first of all, avoid banks that charge you all these fees. And if you're already with a bank that does, yell at them and tell them to waive your fees. Tell them that you're going to go to a different bank. Tell them that, here's my credit score, it's great, or I've been with you guys for so long, look at how great I've been. Tell them to lower your APR. Tell them to increase your credit limit, because that will increase your credit score. I don't pay a lot on my credit. Like, I try to keep my expenses low, so it's not like I have like an amazing, like, it's not like I'm paying so much in order for my credit score to go higher. So really, the way that I increase my credit score, and as I told you, after my whole Airbnb thing, I went into a lot of debt. So I ended up, my credit score like sunk really low. I am, right now, I'm over 200 points higher than, wait, yes, over 200 points higher than what I was at then. It doesn't mean that I'm so high right now, but it means back then I was really low because of the debt that I'd gone into, and it wasn't like my credit score was, amazing before, because I wasn't, I paid everything on time, but it wasn't, I hadn't built up such a big, strong credit score yet. So I went into debt, and the way that I brought myself back up was, I made sure to pay everything on time, lower my cost of living, try and be careful, budget and everything. But then I also called the credit card companies that I was with and tried to increase all my credit limits. So I was having like a bunch of credit that I wasn't using, and that is what increased my credit score dramatically. I definitely recommend it. Just try and raise your credit limit. It really works. Like people say it and you're just like, oh, it's a little trick or scam, whatever. It works like very quickly also. I have a bunch of credit cards that I opened up just so I can have higher credit score. But don't do it all at the same time. Don't open up a bunch of credit cards at the same time. Do like 1 or 2 every year. Because every time you open a new credit card, they will do like a credit check, and that lowers your credit. So Felix says his credit score is over 9,000. Sure. Nico says don't spend more than 25% of your cap. Jesus says I'm going to get a girlfriend with great credit to raise mine when we fall in love. Aww. That's romance. I know it was a joke. I'm not falling for it. I'm just playing along. Gosh. Nate says he only has 2. By the way, like, the whole collecting credit cards thing does get like too much also. Like, I probably should be careful to not open too many credit cards, because for me it's become like a fun thing. I don't go shopping a lot. Like, I don't spend a lot of money, to be honest. My living expenses are low, and the funny thing is that my living expenses now are even lower than when I was like 2 years ago. Even though now I'm making a lot more money than I was making back then, I'm a lot more stable, but my living expenses weirdly are lower because I learned how to budget. So I keep my living expenses low, but I do like to shop around credit cards, which is kind of, it's like, I don't know if that's such a good thing. Credit leaching. CFL Mike, that's a good term. And so a lot of people are saying that they have, Bob, yes, we are live. A lot of people are saying like, yeah, we have, I have such a low credit score, it's not going to get better, I have a low credit score, it's not going to work, whatever. But it's not hard to raise your credit, especially if you're younger and your credit hasn't been built up a lot yet. Like, you're younger, you don't have a lot of credit history. You can definitely do it. I did it in a short time. I mean, by short time, I mean 1 or 2 years. But still, it's not hard to raise your credit limit. Just be consistent. Pay everything on time. Actually, pay things as you go along. For me, I don't wait until the end of the month. I just keep paying. I just keep paying my credit cards off. I have like a budget for myself. I have like a certain amount that I'll spend every day on food. Like, I'll have it in mind. Like, okay, today I'm spending, as I go and get food for myself, I think like, okay, what are we up to now? And so have a budget, have like a monthly budget for yourself. Everything that you don't use, put it in your savings or invest it in some retirement fund or something else. Bitcoin, as Daniel says. And so just keep doing that and increasing your credit limit. And then you're golden. You're rich. Okay. Fardy says, I think I'm going to go on a spiritual excursion into the ocean. That sounds very peaceful. Diacritical says, that's what I do. I look a few times a month and just pay them all off. Yeah, because you also just feel better. It feels good. It's like taking a dump. Okay, it's like cleaning out your place. If you wait until the end of the month, it's going to look like a whole mess. But if you just keep doing it, if you just cleaned out the place every day or every couple days, it's a lot less stressful. You're not dealing with this whole overwhelming mess. Just don't let things build up. Just keep doing it. Just keep paying. I feel like the questions here, it's really funny because some of you guys are like in college, and then some of you guys are like way, very established in life and already know what you're doing, and so the questions are so funny. Like, how do I pay rent versus, some other complicated question. Steph says, I pay it off as soon as I buy something. That's pretty awesome. That's that's ideal. Steph says, yo, talk about Libra, Facebook's new currency. Facebook has a new currency? Someone's asking, what do I think about cryptocurrencies? I really want to know more about cryptocurrency. I'm trying to know more about it. I really want to know more because cryptocurrency is the future. And people think that the people who say that are just weird and idealistic and stupid, but it's really true. Cryptocurrency is the future. Bitcoin is still not dead. Let's see, Facebook Libra. What is that? Facebook has to die. I'm sorry. Like, I would be perfectly fine with Facebook just burning to the ground. And I don't even feel bad saying that on these because none of this is airing on Facebook. None of this live stream is airing on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Periscope. Nothing to do with Facebook. I'm not even touching Facebook. I'm totally happy with Facebook burning to the ground. And apparently, even the government can't touch Facebook. According to Yahoo Finance, there isn't any one agency that can step up to regulate Facebook's Libra, which I just learned about Libra from Steph. Why U.S. regulators are struggling to step up to regulate Facebook's Libra. First of all, what is Libra? Libra is Facebook's new digital currency. So everybody agrees that Facebook's digital currency needs to be regulated, right? Because Facebook is already ruling everything. Facebook is totally just a part of everybody's lives. taking and selling people's personal data and invading people's privacy and scamming people without being regulated. So now they've got a digital currency. Oh my God. And there's no way to regulate the digital currency. And apparently nobody knows what to do about it. There's no current cryptocurrency regulated in the United States. There's no cryptocurrency regulator in the United States. So we already have this thing where, like, cryptocurrencies in general, the government is trying to figure out how to regulate them, but then put that together with Facebook, which is one of our country's tech tyrants. That's not good. Alex says, leave crypto alone. I'm actually very supportive of cryptocurrency, and I do not want the government to touch that. But Facebook owning crypto, I don't want that. I don't want Facebook to own crypto, and I don't even want the government to go after them for their cryptocurrency. I want the government to just go after them and just burn them to the ground. Just burn them down. I just want Facebook to disappear. That's all I want. At least 6 regulatory agencies will have to get involved in scrapping together some framework to cover the concerns related to payments, anti-money laundering, data security, and consumer protection. In June, Facebook unveiled a white paper detailing plans to build a blockchain that will support a low-volatility cryptocurrency called Libra. The currency would be backed by short-term government securities and fiat currency, which users would deposit into the reserve when they exchange their money for units of Libra. Facebook, which is spearheading Libra's development via a new subsidiary called Calibra, has also gathered a consortium of companies, I probably said it wrong, that will supposedly have equal commitments with Facebook itself once Libra launches in the first half of 2020. MasterCard, PayPal, Spotify, Vodafone Group are listed among the 28 founding members, which Facebook hopes it will grow to 100 by the time Libra launches. Ugh. Okay. Do any of these other tech companies have cryptocurrencies? Like, does Amazon have their own crypto? Does Google have their own crypto? Is it just Facebook? Does Twitter have their own crypto? Tech companies. Let's see. Google crypto. Wow. So it looks like Google is also trying to make their own cryptocurrency. All these big tech tyrants are trying to make their own cryptocurrencies. They're all trying to get in on this. Wow. Chainlink. What's Chainlink? Okay, so Google's trying to get in on this. I don't know if Google's is so developed yet. Let's see, Amazon cryptocurrency. Google is still developing. Does Amazon have their own cryptocurrency? No, but people are talking about it. But Amazon isn't talking about it. So Google is talking about it. Facebook has already created their own cryptocurrency. And Amazon is not talking about it, but people are talking about it. About Amazon maybe having their own cryptocurrency. If Amazon had their own cryptocurrency, they would own the world. Like, they really would. Because it would just be like its own self-sustaining economy. Between, like, everything that is owned by Amazon, and then you just pay for Amazon products with their own cryptocurrency. Like, they would be sustaining their own economy. Alex says Bitcoin is a king and shall be forever. I still don't own any Bitcoin. I want to. I want to own Bitcoin. Decaf American says Amazon owns a bunch of crypto URLs. They are up to something. Farty says Amazon's gay. Paul says the Rothschilds wouldn't let that happen. Alex says set up an address and I'll send you some Bitcoin. Really? You'll send me Bitcoin? Okay, I have to figure out how it works. I have to set up I have to figure out how to set up it's like a virtual address, right? Okay, I'm gonna set up an address. Okay, thank you. Yes, and then I'm gonna be like one of these cool YouTubers who goes like, send me Bitcoin. Just check out the links. Send me a Bitcoin link to my link. That doesn't even make sense. Yeah, just send me Bitcoin. Until I set up my Bitcoin address, you can send me PayPal. You can send me through PayPal. I'm not picky. Diacritical says you need a wallet. Bitcoin is at least not owned by a company. Okay. All right, I need to get a virtual wallet, a Bitcoin wallet. All right, so anyone have any questions about Airbnb before we log off? All right, so JS Swish is asking about Airbnb and how do you make money from Airbnb. Go and look back at my live stream because we talked about it in like the first half. You're telling me not to log off. Send me Bitcoin, so I shouldn't log off. If you send me Bitcoin, I won't log off. I'll just keep this live all night. You can be here with me while I go and, get ready for bed. And what else do I do? Brush my teeth. I might, watch a little bit of the TV show that I'm watching. It's called The Royals. I love it. The Royals, it is such an awesome show. It's like a drama, but it's also funny. Like, there are parts of it. I love it. I love dramas. Like, there are parts of it where I cry, parts of it where I laugh, like, together with the characters. It's great. And then, what else do I do? Yeah, like I chill a little bit, I'll go on my phone, check out Instagram. I always do like a TikTok before bed. I love doing TikToks. If you're not on Instagram, go, and I'm updating the descriptions. So you can see, everything in the descriptions. I've got my social media pages, I've got my Patreon and PayPal. I've got and Patreon. I'm gonna fix up my Patreon a little bit because eventually, I want that. I want to make that a thing, subscriptions. But if you go in my Instagram page, Steph TikTok. I also have got TikTok, but you have to in order to see my TikTok stuff, you need the app. You need the TikTok app. So if you go on my Instagram page, I post some of my TikToks on Instagram. I post some of my TikTok. You're going to see most of my TikToks on the TikTok app. But even if you don't have a TikTok app, you can see most of them on my Instagram, in my Instagram stories. So Instagram stories, in case you don't know or you don't have Instagram, it's basically it's basically like a clip, like a video clip, or it's like a post that only stays up for 24 hours and then it just disappears after 24 hours. So for my Instagram stories, I just post like TikTok videos, and I just like doing that just for fun. And I do that like every night. You'll see a new TikTok video every night in my Instagram stories. And they're so much fun. Like, I definitely recommend it. And it's going to be in the description. It's not on YouTube yet, so I have to like update the description. But once I do, just go there and check it out. And you'll really enjoy it, I think. Someone is asking me to explain all over again the Airbnb stuff. You know what? I will not do that. And maybe one more thing I'd say about the Airbnb stuff. Try and like form a separate business account where you can expense everything, because I had such a hard time with my taxes. I had such a hard time with my taxes after that whole Airbnb thing, because I was trying to separate like all my personal expenses with the expenses that I made for like the Airbnb stuff, like everything, you know, like the furniture and stuff, and it was such a disaster. And I paid a lot of money for like the accountant who was working on it, which was not necessary at all. So have like a separate account, and maybe just have a business account for that, just so you have everything totally separate. Joe says, more TikToks with Steph. Those were funny. And Steph is responding, no more TikToks with Steph. Oh, come on, Steph. Everybody loved the TikToks with you in it. Those were really funny. And if I might have, I do have it up on my Instagram stories. So go check out my Instagram stories, the old ones, and you'll see Steph in them. And they're really funny. So Steph is just embarrassed, but she's a TikTok star, and there will be more. And if you go on TikTok, you'll see all of them. You won't have to see them in like a story that's going to expire. You'll see everything, and they're really fun. And we're going to do more TikToks with Steph because there's a demand for it, and they're fun. So, all right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned a little something. And there are so many different ways that I tried making money, so hopefully I'll share more of them with you. Most of it was a disaster. Actually, like 99% of it was a disaster, so hopefully like the next thing I try won't be a disaster. But the Airbnb idea, like, it really works. You know, if you avoid all the problems that I ran into, like if you like just make sure to not run into those problems, you're actually going to be good. You're actually going to make good money. So, good night, everybody. Good night, Paul. Good night, Alex. Nate! You can be strong. You can survive without me. I will see you tomorrow night. Be strong. In the meantime, you can just watch this video over and over again. You can watch it like 10 times. You can like leave it on like loop while you're going to sleep at night on YouTube. Just like let it play on a loop, and then and so it will put you to sleep at night. It'll feel better. So yeah, because apparently people do that. Apparently people leave this on in order to fall asleep at night because it's so long, because it's like an hour long. And so you can do that if you want. Just leave it on a loop. Good night, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. Subscribe to my channel. Like this video. Please like this video. I got a bunch of unlikes, like not likes. I got a bunch of like down thumbs the other night, and I was like, who's doing this? So like my video, like this video on YouTube and on Periscope and on Twitch if that's a thing, and see you all tomorrow night.